PrEP is a daily pill that can significantly reduce your chances of getting HIV. And typically, it takes a trip to a physician to get it. Now, you can visit select pharmacies, get tested on the spot, and walk away with your first month of PrEP. Plus, you'll also walk away with a $50 gift card after you complete your pharmacy visit. It's easier than ever to protect yourself from HIV. To find your nearest participating pharmacy, go to doh.wa.gov/PrEP now. From the Washington State Department of Health and Public Health, Seattle, and King County.
Hey, this is Paul Pearson. I've hosted the R&B show Star Time since the very beginning of Rainier Avenue Radio, and after years of featuring tracks from the 50s through the 80s, Star Time now plays R&B and hip-hop from the 1990s as well. A whole half century of soul, funk, hip-hop, and more on Star Time, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm Granville Emerson along with my partner,
Ronald Pepe Bean.
And we host the show Little Line Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, where we talk about football, basketball,
Local sports,
national sports, Seahawks,
UW,
Seattle U Redhawks,
Garfield Bulldogs,
all that and more right here on Little Line Sports on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Hey Seattle, Shop the Beat is back. Shop the Beat supports the economic recovery of small businesses, local musicians, and neighborhoods throughout Seattle. This program matches small retail businesses with local musicians to host free in-store performances during peak shopping hours to help increase foot traffic and sales for retailers and provide competitive pay for musicians who were significantly impacted by the pandemic. The City of Seattle Office of Economic Development is currently accepting applications from musicians and small businesses who are interested in participating. Apply for Shop the Beat at seattle.gov/economic development. Applications in December 1st.
Here with the Rainier Avenue Radio traffic update. You can listen to us in your car 24/7 anytime by downloading the free TuneIn app. Once you do, search Rainier Avenue Radio. And remember, do not curse out your fellow drivers. This has been your Rainier Avenue Radio traffic update.
Good evening, Rainier Avenue Radio fans and listeners. Welcome to Music and Life, Rainier Avenue Radio's music interview show. Still covering artists who have played or are playing the Earshot Jazz Festival, currently going on at several venues throughout the city of Seattle. And tonight, I have the great pleasure of interviewing Mr. Logan Washington, an alto sax player, a composer, a band leader, a producer, who will be playing this Saturday night at the Royal Room with his band Blues People. We'll be talking a lot about them and that project. Starts at 8 p.m. on Saturday night at the Royal Room. And right now I'd like to welcome to our show, Logan Richardson.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. It's a great pleasure to talk to you.
Absolutely. Same here.
Where are you right now?
Right now I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Okay. And where I know that you've lived, well, you were born in Kansas City, you lived in New York and Paris. Where are you based as of 2022?
As of 2022, based in Los Angeles. I relocated from Napoli in Italy to Los Angeles in December of last year, so December of 21. And so almost been here about a year and loving it thus far. So, still adjusting and whatnot, but it's just been a great time so far.
It's probably a little different scene than the places you've lived before, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was thinking about that recently, and I think that all of the places that I've lived prior have all been really great prepping stones for the grind and the way in Los Angeles, and I'm still observing and learning and whatnot. But yeah, very different for sure. But I like it quite a bit.
It's a crazy town. I lived there for 5
absolutely.
years myself. So
wow. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, let's if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about how you started out. You were born in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah, absolutely. I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, and I kind of always loved music. I'm sure that it was always around the house. I know that for sure. And then also from the age of where it was possibly just more by osmosis. And just kind of came up, just really kind of, now if I have the words to be able to express it, I was pretty genre free. It was just really all about like if I was into the music or not. So everything ranged from, I don't know, it could be from the Temptations to the OJs, to Mahalia Jackson, to, Olivia Newton-John, to Hall & Oates, Phil Collins. I mean, it was like, and I used to make mixtapes and stuff like that. So that was fun. And then, when I was about 12, I used to bug my mom for a saxophone for some reason or another. I still not really quite sure, but it was a saxophone. It was a tenor saxophone, in fact, though I play alto. And I just kind of stayed with that. And then once, I bugged her for a couple of years, finally I got one when I was about 14. And I just was pretty neurotic getting into it and stayed that way. And was able to have many great opportunities in Kansas City just in the time I was coming up. Around 15, 16, 95, 96, there was, somewhat of a boom in terms of the magnet school system and the funds that was getting put into that. And then consequently, they're reviving the 18th and Vine district in Kansas City. So, building a new American Jazz Museum there and the Blue Room and the club that's there and some other things. So it really kind of, created this thing where, Clark Terry would come in every year. They started bringing in Max Roach. He was like the very first clinician I ever had. And then they brought in Shirley Scott the week after that. And then, Jimmy Owens, and then hometown hero Bobby Watson and whatnot. And so it was an interesting time. And then it just proceeded, through the school years. They brought Richard Davis and Toshiko Akiyoshi and Kenny Burrell. And we did a concert with Jimmy Heath, small group and big bands. I mean, it was like, it's really a dream, interestingly enough now, speaking about it. But it's also very real, and I'm very fortunate to have come up in Kansas City in that particular time when a lot of our foremothers and forefathers were still with us and still allowing us the opportunity to be amongst them. And when I was about 19, I eventually left and went to Berkeley and Boston for about a year and a half, then moved to New York, went to the new school, and stayed for 10 years, then moved to Europe for another 10 years, and then finally, landed back in the United States here in Los Angeles. So, a lot of other things in between there, but this interview would go a lot longer. So.
I was going to say we have a lot to talk about. I really wish we had more than
absolutely.
However much we have left. So Max Roach was your first clinician.
Yep.
Wow. Well, that's a big name to start off with.
Yeah, pretty deep. And for me, it was awesome because, I'd only been, listening to jazz for, I guess since I was about 13, but, I was, still kind of expanding, the who I knew and who to check out and things like this. So at that time, I was very, very familiar with Charlie Parker because he was the one that sealed the deal. It may sound like a stereotype, but it was the way I found him was very much like any kid could have. Like I played alto. I played it because I love the saxophone. That was it. And then I learned there was a guy by the name of Charlie Parker that was from Kansas City too that played alto saxophone. So then I checked him out. Like I believe it was the Massey Hall concert, and man, just incredible. After that I was stuck, and I think that. The music has that type of wonderful power, so it's awesome to get to be a part of that, and I'm happy to be able to come to Earshot and be able to bring a bit of this love for the music.
I want to get to the band that's playing on Saturday night, one of the many projects you had, Blues People, but I do want to go over a couple of other things that you've done because you released. You've got a lot of releases out there, a couple of singles, 5 solo albums. And there's some of the most wild, unpredictable, and really enjoyable albums that I've listened to in the last couple of weeks, to be honest with you. You mentioned being kind of genre agnostic and liking all genres. And that seems to go with what you've tried to do over the course of at least your solo career is expand the boundaries of what jazz can entail.
Yeah, I mean, I feel as if I've always felt that the very essence of the music always sat inside of this particular space, to where it always felt like it gave the permission that everything is okay, just in the sense of like any and everything, you must respect the environment and the context and the social structure that surrounds the thing, whatever that thing may be. That's how I see it. So I mean, I've never subscribed to this idea that a particular 3 or 4 years isolated in the entire timeline of the music so far is indicative of what the music is as a stamp or an actual mainstay in terms of jazz or improvised music or Black American music. So it's that in itself is already another conundrum, because usually with this music, as you think about any other part in cultures, and immediately if you bring up a food, a clothing item, a type of thing or whatever, immediately everyone's mind will go to the culture and the place and the people and the thing. But with jazz music, it's very clear that it comes from the African American perspective and culture, and certainly like it's a music that's been given and of all people, this and that. I mean, that's for sure. But we certainly don't have to speak about that when we talk about the Roman Colosseums, or when we talk about pasta or rice, or we talk about any of these other things, or couscous. So it's one of these things where it always becomes this strange space. And so for me, a lot of the music and the thing that I stand for is also, shining that bright light for all of our ancestors and foremothers and forefathers that believed and loved enough to be able to sacrifice their life and their dignity and their space to be able to leave something so wholesome and full of love. And it's always also a great duty just to make sure that the context is not forgotten or not a part of it. And that for me is very, very important. So yeah, and being genre free really fits into that whole scope, because like with that there is no genre when we're talking about really the totality of a human being. And that in itself is like really the genre that I want to rock with. If you make me have to choose one, I would just choose the one of human or humanity or whatever that is.
Yeah, definitely got to talk to you that when we get to Blues People. But really quickly, I want to talk over about just a couple other things that you've done recently. An album called Shift that came out in 2016, I believe. And there was a point to that album, I think that you had, which was asking the question, can there be new music in jazz? And one of the people that played on that album with you was Pat Metheny, who I think you'd have at least a little bit in common with as far as kind of bending the boundaries of jazz and incorporating different elements, because some of his albums from the 70s, like American Garage, they really play with the traditional image of jazz chordings and jazz composition, and that seems like something that maybe might have brought you two together.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in of sorts. I mean, I think that just ends up being one of the things that will from a kind of I suppose from a comparison perspective of taste that could be seen, but really that would be fortunate. It is fortunate, but the way that our relationship really started was more a lot more organic than that. Pat's from Kansas City, so we're from the same place, and I never had a chance to meet him there growing up, but his older brother Mike Metheny has always lived there. So I didn't learn this until many years later when I was speaking with Pat, but his brother had been telling Pat about me for years, and it was I think around 2008 Pat came to a performance that I had with Jason Moran at Town Hall in New York City, and checked out the show. And then I woke up the next day and had this email from Pat Metheny, and it was a very nice email. And from there, that's really where our direct relationship started. And for years, just kind of just went around, and I tried to keep the band together and find a proper record label to be able to release the project. So super happy we were able to do that. And yeah, and mostly I mean musically, obviously, I mean it's it's a mentor and an elder and someone who I look up to greatly, and I'm also extremely proud that Pat is my friend as well, very much, and that's a very meaningful thing and component to have in my life and relationship to have. And in addition to the fact that he's such a great human being, man, I think it really comes out, I think, in his music all the time, and it's really very much him all the time. So it's really a great pleasure and an honor to know him, and to have had the opportunity to create with him and everything. Yeah.
I also want to talk really quickly about your 2020 album Afrofuturism, and a bunch of singles actually that came out that year. And that album feels like it needs an entire show to itself as well. But it's a very broad, very expansive, and kind of what's the cinemascopic work. Do you want to talk a little bit about that album quickly? Or
yeah, I was already working on the album well before quarantine and the virus and everything hit, and in that period of time I was actually going to release a little earlier, actually in that spring, and then just due to the nature of just trying to see what was going on, I waited a bit, and it gave me a little bit more time to get deeper. And I've always been very fascinated by sci-fi and yeah, in terms of a genre of film and George Orwell and just kind of like this constant Sarah Connor panting 80s kind of thing. And I've always tried to put that inside of the music. And I think with just everything I was, going through transitioning personally, just in terms of like, music and where I'm at, location wise and things like this. It was just like there are a lot of things going on that really, changed my perspective. And so I was just trying to get everything out in that album, and really to have a particular type of filter and space that existed in it, like a particular type of grit and murkiness, amidst like the elements of almost like imagining like a flower growing in like a quicksand pit, and it's able to stay afloat somehow, or that's how it's staying afloat, is because it is a quicksand space, like this kind of abstract space. And I mean, amidst that, I mean, there are many other uh purposes and reasons for how the music got put together in terms of invention. Always somebody that's trying to draw attention to the great African American inventors, and just to this entire process of historically documenting in an audible way, and trying to get more into obviously this particular part where I'm able to actually verbalize and speak about that more. But the project in general was really something that I was just trying to work on. Production process is different, the way that I'm able to actually create and interact with myself, be it like even that one track called Light, which is just a duo with myself, where I'm playing keys and then I'm also playing saxophone. And I play, I'm obsessed with piano as well, so I really just like to I don't know. I mean, the best way to say it is just really be vicious about the creation process and be as much of a child as possible. And that's very important to me. I mean, obviously with the growth and the maturity that comes with experience, but to stay fresh, to stay new, to not become overwhelmed with things that I'm supposed to do or something like this. Just do.
We are talking with Logan Richardson here on Music and Life at Rainier Avenue Radio. Once again, he will be performing with Blues People at the Royal Room for the Earshot Jazz Festival on Saturday, November 5th at 8 p.m. And let's talk a little bit about Blues People in the time that we have left, which is an amazing, it will start off as an amazing album that came out in 2018, and is just absolutely unlike anything I've ever heard. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the origin, I guess, the philosophical origin of Blues People was a book of the same name by Amiri Baraka. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's correct. Yeah, it was a book entitled Blues People, Black Music in a White America. And essentially, it should be like prerequisite reading, in my opinion, in any course, or anyone trying to understand really the structure about the music. In addition to, in particular, culturally inside of the cultures, African American culture, in terms of that history. He wrote a much better book than many books that I've written that are supposed to be specifically about all these various different subjects. And really it's a book about jazz in the end. But I find that it reads like a great movie, and it's hard to put down, and it really changed me just in terms of what I came to understand, premonitions that I felt like I had. And it was just a way to be able to try to offer back. As I try not to be a very verbatim or spoon-fed type of person, it was just something where the name was appropriate. And honestly, this band has always been a tribute to me seeking out my expression of what this book made me feel, which is to go back to Kansas City, find these great artists where I'm from, dig back into where I'm from, and be able to use my platform to bring these folks out. And that's where it started. And the band's grown quite a bit. The concepts evolved a lot. And same thing, you know, it's just a band that focuses on at a core social justice, but really on the surface, being able to heal and be music that is permitting for one to feel as if it's okay for them to let go and to change or to be the same or whatever it may be. It's a safe space. And yeah, it's yeah, I mean that's in short what the project is, but I feel like that was probably like a whole thesis in itself. So yeah.
And it you know, like we were talking, you know, about the lack of boundaries between genres, that is very much in effect on this album. There's everything from, you know, prog rock to like later electronic EMD acts like M83, and I even heard some New York Underground punk in there, maybe a little bit, and some country even. It's just,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's got everything.
Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of, you know, what it was. It's like, you know, even when I would go to my grandmother's house, every day of the week except for Sundays, the little radio that she still has in her house. I mean, she's like 97 years old. It's the same
Wow.
radio. It, you know, she played country music every single day except for Sunday, and it would be gospel music. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, that's something when you go to grandma's house and you're just sitting there for hours and hours, whether you're in it or not, you're definitely hearing this music. And, you know, once again, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. So certainly country music is a thing out that way.
Sure. I mean, the album is so densely made and layered. Is it, how do you and the band recreate that in a small club like you're going to be playing on Saturday night?
Well, I think there are certain things that are designed for recreating in that particular situation live, and then other things that are created really just for the purpose of the creation of that for the studio. For that purpose, like, we're not doing it to recreate it. Like, if you want that to experience that again, then that's why you would actually go and buy the album.
Sure.
And I mean, certainly we could recreate it live if we wanted to, but it's I like the contrast that exists. There are certain things that you'll never get live. So if you do actually ever get it live, then that it's really going to be a thing. And yeah, and it'll be exciting for you, for the audience, as well as it'll be exciting for us. And I think that's the space that we're in. But yeah, most of everything we do on the album we recreate live. It's Yeah, I mean, it's basically just the core band. I mean, there's no, I mean, I mean, in the production process, certainly, like in the studio, like, you know, I'm doing a lot of different things in terms of dubs and ads and embellishments in terms of like the orchestra of the overall sonics. However, live, generally there's never anything missed, because we found a way between like patching and making sure the sounds are plugged exactly the exact same way, or if it is you know, something where it's coming down to making sure that the you know, it's a combination of making sure that not only our sound is right, but making sure the sound in the room is correct. And usually between the balance of the two, there's usually not any issues with that, unless it's really something that's like really heavily produced. Then in that sense, you would probably more or less kind of maybe put a track underneath, but we usually don't do that.
Okay. Well, we are out of time, unfortunately, but I really wish we could have spent more time talking to you. But once again, thanks for taking time to talk to us.
No, it's really great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Logan Richardson and Blues People playing at the Royal Room as part of the Earshot Jazz Festival this Saturday night at 8 p.m. And please stay tuned for our Halloween special coming up next. And also on Music and Life this Sunday, we'll be sitting down with Anthony Wilson. For Rainier Avenue Radio, I'm Paul Pearson. Thank you again, Logan, and good